Want to become Spider-Man in Minecraft? Well, now you can by using this custom origin for the Origins mod. The Spider-Man custom origin was created by the user known as A. This requires the 1.18 version of Origins as well as Fabric Tailor along with it. Let's get started. So, the Spider-Man origin is a 3-impact origin. You're a Spider-Man, a menace. You have awesome spider powers, but you're still a menace. Moving into our abilities, we have Enhanced Body. You're stronger, faster, bouncier, more resistance, and have excellent eyesight. Well, except for when you're in water. In essence, this ability gives you Saturation, Jump Boost 3, Speed 3, Strength 4, Resistance 4, and Night Vision permanently. Basically meaning you have the ability to one-shot a majority of passive mobs. Hostile mobs less so, but you still do a bit of damage with them without even needing a weapon of sorts at all. And then of course you've got that resistance to boot, which means that you don't have to go straight for armor as quickly. Yes, this is indeed an overpowered origin. It's kind of how these go sometimes. Sometimes the fun origins are just overpowered. The other side of this though is that these abilities will immediately start their countdown and wear off entirely when you're in water. The moment you step out of the water though, you get these abilities back, and so basically you just don't want to go on water. Water's not your friend in this scenario. And hey, if you want to join me live with some Minecraft shenanigans, I stream over at twitch.tv/Krazair every single night, so please come and join, have some fun. But moving into our next ability, we've got the Wall Crawler. You can crawl up surfaces and ceilings like a spider. I'm pretty sure we all saw this ability coming considering the fact that this is meant to be a Spider-Man based origin, but yes, you can crawl up walls, you can crawl on ceilings. It's a very useful ability for traversing the land, especially when you're trying to go up massive buildings or when you're trying to build some pretty cool structures. It's an easy way to get around and it's pretty damn useful overall. Just a bit of a side note to keep in mind here, if you want to crawl on the ceiling, you do have to be holding the spacebar button whilst you're doing so. If you're not holding the spacebar button, you will just fall off the roof and potentially take fall damage if you fall a far enough distance. And hey, make sure to subscribe, hey? Moving into our next ability, we have the Suit Up ability. You receive your famous Spider-Man suit when you equip a full red leather suit. This allows you to sling and shoot your webs. However, if you take too much damage whilst in the suit, it will be destroyed. So first off, let's address the mighty elephant in the room. This is an ability that you actually have to do a bit of survival Minecraft before you can actually unlock, as it does require you to equip a full set of red leather armor. And I do emphasize on the red fact, if you just apply normal leather armor, it will not activate these abilities for you. You will know when you equip the right set of armor, because this is when Fabric Tailor kicks in and swaps your skin for an actual Spider-Man skin. This is when your abilities come into play that we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, this origin, whilst being very overpowered for what it is, it does lock a few of the more powerful abilities behind a few paywalls. Well, survival walls, you have to unlock them. You actually have to grind a bit, because leather is always a pain to get, as well as getting a bit of red dye, so you have to do that grind in order to get the armor. Now, from what I can gather, the amount of damage you need to take in order to lose the actual suit itself is probably enough to require you to die first before you actually would lose the skin. And from what I can also gather, due to your first set of abilities, you have a very high amount of saturation, meaning that it's very, very unlikely that you'll lose enough health to actually die unless you're in water when all those abilities get deactivated. So the likelihood of you losing your suit when you take too much damage is very unlikely, considering how much and how quickly you heal with your extreme saturation levels. But enough talking about the suit. What are these actual abilities that you get? First ability you have is Webslinger. You pretty much already know what this is, but let's just go through it. You can swing from point to point and pull entities towards you with your web slinging ability. This does use your primary ability key, which is typically bind to G, but you can of course change that in the key binds. One of the big things of note is that this ability is a bit weird to get used to, but it's also quite fun at the same time. Another side note to this is you will give yourself a lot of fall damage when playing around with this ability, because you have a tendency of just launching yourself way up into the air. But again, that saturation, as I mentioned from before, will just lead you to instantly heal that health back up and not have to worry too much about it anyhow. The next part about it is you're less likely to actually chain your webbing together, mainly because of the fact that you have the high speed from your other abilities, that it makes it a little bit more difficult to change these abilities together, because you'll tend to be flying at a pretty fast speed. Whilst it's definitely doable and definitely possible, it is also a bit of difficulty to it, and it does take a bit to get used to, but overall the ability of swinging around is quite a fun one to deal with, and is pretty brilliant to do as well. And just the added in bonus that you can pull mobs towards you as well is pretty interesting. And due to the fact that you move so fast when you're swinging around, mainly because of that speed boost and how fast it pulls you, that you can pretty much avoid a majority of arrows being shot your direction by a collection of different mobs such as the pillager and the skeletons. Oh, and the other note is that this ability does work underneath the water, so you don't have to worry about losing this ability if you do go into water. Moving on to your secondary ability that comes along with this suit is your web shooter. You can shoot out cobwebs around you to trap potential enemies. Now I just want to put a side note out here, this one will probably become one of your most underused abilities overall, as it's not really too helpful in a majority of situations. I mean, it's pretty useful if you want to like trap a creeper or trap a collection of mobs that you don't want to deal with and get an easy to run away, but you already move so fast as it is that this ability is kind of null and void, especially when you can just web and sling away, or pull them towards you and swing away, or just do a monumental different other things to get out of that situation. This might become useful when you're trying to catch other players though, as it does slow them down and impair them, and it could be pretty useful in cases where the other player also has a slightly overpowered origin, as you can slow them down and potentially do some damage or just get out of the way. Overall, the secondary ability is a lot less impactful in comparison to your main. But I know what you're thinking, Crusair, there's one ability that's still missing from the key Spider-Man set. His Spidey sense. Well, worry no less, you've still got that ability. You can detect nearby entities through blocks and see invisible and sneaking entities from far away. Basically speaking, whenever anything within the vicinity of you that could potentially be harmful from you, or maybe a mob drop or other things along those lines, gets shifted behind a wall or a block of any forms, it will get this red outline over the top of it. But the moment it's now in your sight and not behind that block anymore, it will no longer have that outline. It's basically actually pretty cool overall. It's not like one of those always visible through the blocked entities like you would see normally with a bunch of other the Origins, where they've always got a glowing outline at all times. They will only ever have said outline if they're behind a certain block or two. And it can also be very useful for an example where you accidentally drop an item and you walk away from the location. You can turn back around and you'll see this bright red outline of the item that you dropped, and it will make you realize go back and go collect it. This ability does have one caveat though. If you are not a fan of picking up certain items and you leave the drops on the ground, it will just slowly clutter your screen if they're behind a wall. So just make sure if you're going to dispose of any items, make sure to throw it into a cactus or into lava so they no longer are rendered in the game at all. And yes, this ability functions when you do not have the suit on. But moving into our next ability, we have the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Just like in the song, you sink faster and drown more in water. Now, English is not exactly great in this part here. You drown more, you just drown quicker. Your bubbles decrease at a far faster rate than the average Minecraft player. You also sink extraordinarily fast, and as we've already established at the start of this video, it also disables your ability effects overall. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it does not affect your web slinging abilities. They all still function perfectly fine whilst you're underwater, but you do lose your mega saturation, your strength, your speed, and all the other beautiful effects that you gain based off of your main ability when you're in water. Overall, I'm not too sure how this disadvantage works logically, as I don't think I remember a Spider-Man movie, at least. I don't read too much of the comics, where he has a huge disadvantage in water. And I do understand the song itself is like, yeah, spiders get screwed in water, and in real life, if you drown a spider, it dies, just like everything else. But there are also other types of spiders that can glide across water, so I guess it's up to your own interpretation of whether this is a good disadvantage or not. Again, at the end of the day, this Origin is still very overpowered, because this is the only disadvantage you have, is you got a weakness to water, and it's not like you take damage from water, it's more you just drown a little bit quicker, and you sink as well a lot harder than what a normal Minecraft player does. Either way, make sure to click this video on screen, leave a like down below, and see you guys next time.